video is going to be really emotional and sappy. I hope you guys are ready for that. What's up, guys? Welcome back. I know it's been a little while, but I am back doing a proper video, and as usual, it is lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this week. Today I'm doing another cosplay story time, but this one is going to be quite a bit different. I am going to be talking about some experiences that I had cosplaying at ECCC, which was just last weekend, so it was my most recent con, and I had an amazing time. But as well as that, I'm also going to be talking about some of my personal history that is not related to cosplay and how that kind of ties in to those experiences that I had last weekend. And it's gonna get really sappy, and people are probably gonna be like, oh my gosh, why are you crying about children's shows? But I mean, that's my whole life, is crying about children's shows. It's just who I am. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit different. It's not gonna be the same kind of cosplay story time that you guys are probably used to, but I felt like this was something that I really wanted to share, and I thought it was an important thing to talk about. And honestly, everything that I'm gonna be talking about in this video, or at least like the core concept of this video, is really the whole reason why I cosplay. So it is quite an important thing that I wanted to share with you guys. So that being said, let's get into it. Like I said, last weekend I went to Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle, and I cosplayed with my friends. We cosplayed Teen Titans together, and this was something that we had been planning to do for quite a while. My friend Madeline, or Party Chicken Cosplay, she and I had been talking about doing Starfire and Raven together pretty much since we've met. And so when we eventually learned that we were going to be at Emerald City Comic Con this year, Madeline suggested that we finally make those cosplays and wear them together. So in preparation, I marathoned the entire series. I had never actually seen the entire series like all the way through before that. I had just seen the first 2 seasons as a kid, and I had only watched it like when it first debuted. So it had been 15 years since the last time I watched it, and I fell instantly in love with it. And on top of that, I got a lot of nostalgia, and it brought back a lot of memories and a lot of the personal history that I have with this series and with Raven's character, and that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. So like I said, it's going to be really sappy. So yeah. So like I said, I first watched this series when it first debuted back in 2003, I think, 2003-ish. I was in grade 3 at the time, and that was a point in my life when things definitely started to go off the rails socially. In elementary school, I find, kind of looking back, in like kindergarten, grade 1, the clique mentality hasn't quite clicked in for a lot of kids, I find. So everybody just kind of gets along really well. But by kind of grade 2 and onwards, that's when, you know, the kind of social hierarchy starts to form. And I have never been considered a cool kid during my school career. I've always been like the weird nerd who nobody wants to hang out with. And so obviously once these cliques started to form, I was very much at the bottom of the social hierarchy, and it got to a point where I wouldn't have people to hang out with at lunchtime or at recess or anything. I got bullied on a daily basis, and for recess, I kind of figured out this habit of like, there was one particular corner in the playground that I just decided was gonna be my corner, and I would sit there and like either eat by myself or play with a plush animal by myself or sing to myself or cry. So on the flip side, I also had really bad teachers during grade 2, 3, and 4. So just all, like, my entire days at school, it was difficult to get through, and it was just mostly kind of like a day of misery. That's pretty much what it would be, and it would take a lot to just make it through the day. Told you guys this was going to be an emotional ride, but here we are. So 2003, like I said, is also when Teen Titans first debuted. I have always had a major love for cartoons, and 8-year-old Anya was no exception to that. So Teen Titans first debuted, and obviously there were a lot of cartoons at the time that I really loved and really had a big impact on me, but none quite the same way as this show. I remember watching it and I fell in love with it. My little mind, I remember, was absolutely blown by all of the like plot twists and the writing and like the character development. Like, this was something unlike any other show that I had watched up until that point. And I instantly like really had an attachment to these characters, in particular Raven. And looking back, like I hadn't really thought about it this much. I was thinking like, why did my 8-year-old self like her that much? And it kind of hit me over the weekend when we were at ECCC when I was thinking back to this, because she is a character who deals a lot with like isolation and not fitting in and feeling alone and all that fun stuff. And she has a lot of crap going on, and it's difficult for her to like make it through with all of that, so she kind of has to like strive through all of this difficulty, and that's exactly what my 8-year-old self was dealing with at the time. Ooh. So it makes perfect sense. Like, as soon as I saw her, I remember watching the show and seeing her and just being like, I like you a lot. And so, oh gosh, this seems really sweet, but it's also very sad because, like I said, I wouldn't have anybody to hang out with at lunchtime, so I would like imagine that like all of the characters were my friends, and my 8-year-old self decided that like Raven was gonna be my role model. I remember I would like walk around school and be like, she's my role model, and I think like it was kind of like, it was dumb and cringy because I'm like, I want to be just like her and like act like her, which is kind of stupid, but at the same time, like by the same token, I also just decided, I think, that I was gonna like draw strength from this character who was going through similar things that I was going through at the time and help me have the strength to get through the day, even though my teacher was terrible and I didn't have any friends to hang out with and everybody was bullying me all the time. So this show is a big deal to me, and this character is a big deal to me, and rewatching the show just like brought all that instantly back. It's kind of sad though, I only got to watch the first 2 seasons because eventually my parents saw that I was watching the show and they were like, that's violent, we don't like you watching this show, that's not appropriate for your age. And then my classmates were like, oh yeah, my mom doesn't let me watch that show, so you shouldn't watch that show either, it's terrible that you watch that show. So I had to kind of like disown this show that had like this major impact on me. But it's all fine, because like 15 years later, I'm an adult and I can watch whatever I want. But that is basically the background that I have with the show, and talking about it now and thinking back to that, it was a lot. It was a lot that just kind of like hit me. So anyway, fast forward to Emerald City Comic Con last weekend. The first thing that was a big deal is the fact that I was cosplaying this show with close friends. Like, if my 8-year-old self could see that, if she could see photos of these cosplays, it would be a big deal. Like, it's crazy to think that, like, that is so completely, I don't know, that is just, like, probably the ultimate best outcome that, like, my younger self could have hoped for back at that time. So it was a big deal to think that, like, I have these close friends, and we're all into the same thing, and we all support and think each other is cool, because we have this shared interest and we're cosplaying it together, and like that's really, really cool, and we're allowed to like this show and no one's shaming us for it. Just thinking about that and putting that into perspective was a lot to think about. But most notably were the interactions that we had with basically everyone. We had interactions with people our age and a little bit older. The reception to these cosplays was insane. We had people like our age and older stopping us for photos, and they were all super excited, and like they pretty much all said the same thing. They were like, I grew up watching the show, this is really awesome, this is such a cool nostalgic throwback, you guys look great, and it was really awesome. We had so many parents who didn't have their kids with them who came up, and they were also very excited to see us, and all of them also said pretty much the same thing. They'd be like, oh my gosh, my children love this show, and they are going to be like ecstatic when I show them a photo of you guys, can I please take your photo? So many people said like exactly that to us. But what hit me the hardest were all of the children that came up to us during that day and during the rest of the weekend. I ended up wearing my Raven cosplay all throughout the weekend. The first day I did it with body paint, and then the other 2 I just did it without body paint, just because like this was a cosplay that like I really enjoyed wearing. I had an actual lineup and I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna live in this cosplay all weekend, and it was fantastic. So the first day obviously I had my 2 friends cosplaying with me, and then the other 2 days it was me by myself. And there were 2 interactions with children that hit me by far the hardest. The first one was on the Friday, so we have like our full group and everything, and I see this family and they have this little 3-year-old girl, and she has 2 like older brothers, but they don't really care as much, but she sees me and you can tell that she was very, very excited. So her parents are talking to her and like obviously like telling her to go and say hi. I see where this is going, so like in anticipation I kneel down and like wave to her, you know, to also let her know that's cool to take a photo with me. And so she starts walking over, and so I'm like, oh, I like your cosplay, because she's dressed in a little Supergirl dress. And before I can even finish saying that, she just hugs me. She just hugs me, and I'm like so caught off guard, but like in a good way. It was very sweet. And so I hug her back, and then her mom eventually like is calling out to her, being like, okay, like look at the camera, we're gonna take a photo. And so she looks up, but she's still like, she is just glued to me. She just clings to me the whole time. So I have my arm around her, and we take the photo together, and then like you could tell she doesn't want to leave. And so the mom tells her like, okay, we have to go now. And so I wave goodbye to her, and like she gets really stoked and walks away. The thing is, this family then went into this lineup for this jelly bean booth that was right next to where we were sitting. And so while they were there were several different times when she would see me through the crowd. And so we'd make eye contact, and I'd smile at her and wave. And so every time, like at first she'd have kind of this shy expression, and then once I waved her, she'd get this like huge smile and then like shyly look away. And this happened about 3 times while they were in this lineup. So like at that point, I'm like, well, this day just can't get any better, because my heart is melted and she's really excited to have gotten a photo together. And like, that's a very rewarding thing as a cosplayer, is when like kids are excited to see you and get photos with you, and it was very, very nice. The second encounter was on the Sunday, so I was not painted and I was by myself. But similarly, there was a little 5-year-old girl, and she came up to me with her parents, and she was also very, very shy. She asked to get a photo, and I said, of course. So we get a photo together, and then she walks over to her parents, and then you can tell her parents are like talking to her and kind of like gesturing towards me. You can tell she's deciding what she wants to do, and then she eventually decides to go for it, and she turns around, she comes back and just like hugs me. And it was a very long hug. One thing that I kept in mind, I don't know if anybody here has seen Confessions of a Retired Disney Princess, but Rachel Hankel, she used to play Snow White. She shares this story about how she was told that when you are portraying a character and you're interacting with children, if you hug a child, you should always be the last one to let go, because you don't know how long they need it. That's how the quote goes. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep that in mind. So it was a very, very long hug. I just decided like I was gonna wait for her to like let go. So it was a very long hug. And then, you know, I tell her, I say like, oh, you know, nice to meet you, have a good day. And she, in her very, very soft, very shy voice, says, you too. And then they leave. And these interactions really stuck with me, like I said, but they were a big deal for quite a major reason. In many ways, I feel like we have come full circle. And when I really kind of put all this into perspective, this hit me quite hard. Because, I mean, I know that these little kids, they know these characters from Teen Titans Go. I get that, and it's not like as intense and emotional as the original series. I get that, but I think it's still fair to say that these are characters that this new generation of fans, they still have like a major attachment to. These are characters that they look up to and probably find strength from in certain ways. Maybe not quite the same way that I did, but like same concept. So the notion that, you know, I met 2 little girls and this is probably a character that they admire or feel empowered by, or, you know, along those lines, and like this is a role model for them just like she was a role model for me. And then like getting to see how excited they were to see somebody cosplaying her, and like getting to like take a photo and like hug me, and just the notion that I had the same experience when I was younger. Obviously I was a little bit older than these girls were, but like still when I was a child, and that I can kind of represent that for them, or basically contribute to that for this new generation of young girls, was a big deal. It was a big deal when you really think about it. So there you go. That's what I wanted to share with you guys. And yeah, I told you guys this was going to be a very sappy, emotional video, and that's what we have. But this is basically the reason why I cosplay, is because most of the characters that I do, like the vast majority, there's some that I do like just for fun, but most of them, there is some sort of deeper meaning. There's some deep connection, and same with like the fictional properties themselves. Like for example, like Steven Universe, back when I was like super big into Steven Universe, I got into that show shortly after I lost my mom, and so all the episodes in the first season that dealt with like Steven losing Rose hit me very hard and was also very helpful. There was some really helpful stuff in there for me at that time. So, I don't know, fiction, it always has like a deeper meaning, I think, for most people, and for me that is like one of the main reasons why I cosplay. It's like a love letter to these characters and to these fictional properties for helping you through different times, or like teaching you some lesson, or just giving you entertainment and comfort. And that's something that I really wanted to talk about. So there you go. Anyway, if you guys have any similar experiences, I would love to know about it. We can get emotional together in the comments. Also, speaking of Emerald City Comic Con and Raven and emotions, I got my first ever physical piece of fan art. Shout out to Carter Cat on Instagram, who is the cutest Miku and like just the cutest person in general, who drew this gorgeous fan art and then gave it to me, and like drew this fan art before I'd even done the cosplay. Like, I was so shook when I first saw this on Instagram, you have no idea, and then we got to meet and I got like the physical version and it was wonderful. So like shout out and thank you so much again for watching and being adorable and awesome, and you're so talented. I will have a link, Instagram link in the description, so y'all should totally go follow. But anyway, on that note, thank you guys so much for watching this very emotional cosplay story time, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys all for next week's video. But until then, Panda Faces, please be sure to take care. Bye!